Broadcasting live from the great state of Michigan. This is Safe or Trap the Survivor Pool Show. I'm your host, Shawn Stewart. On this October 2nd, 2025, this is our first show on Safe or Trap. So I have some great and exciting news to share with you as I am sitting this share button on the 586 Sports YouTube, 586 Sports X page, by the way. So we are back to our normally day because last week I did my show on Friday because my power button for my laptop did not work. So we are back to our regularly scheduled program. Now, I have great news to share with you. So, as you know, for those of you who are playing Survivor Pool, whether you have played it for years or new to it, I added something new to it. So, instead of playing Survivor Pool that you usually pick winners, we actually decided to do both. So we have not only a winner survival pool, but also a loser survival pool on the Patreon page. So let me give you an example what the survival pool. So it's the same thing. Okay. So with the survival pool, with the loser survival pool, you're just picking losers. So this game is available on Splash Sports. So new customers can use my promo code UUM2IX and you will get $10 free when you play a contest that is $10 plus or more. So let me give you an example of how it goes. All right. So let's say there is a game between I'm just making it up. So let's say there's a game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, in your head, you're thinking Tampa Bay would win. But remember, this is a loser by pool, so you will pick Jacksonville. You know what I mean? Or if a game was like the Miami Dolphins versus the New York Jets, you will pick the New York Jets. Because again, this is like a loser survival pool. So if you do want that survival pool grid sheet for the loser survival pool, I do have it on Patreon. So we have three packages. So we have the NFL, NCAA, and both packages, NFL and college football survival pool grid sheets. So, and the great thing is, it is not extra. So it is the same price what we had in the previous weeks, and all three of those have a 7-day trial. So if you do want that, the link for it, I do have the link for it, and you can subscribe to that. By the way, all right, and make sure that the state that you live in that you are able to play Survivor Pool on Splash Sports. Okay. Now that we got out of the way, I do want to do some recaps. I did do some research before the show even started. I did find out this is the seventh time that the Jacksonville Jaguars have been 3-1. That was the last time they ever did that was back in 2018. And that season they were like 5-12, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, and also by the way, if you have any questions about your survival pool, whether it's NCAA or NFL, feel free to send me a message. All right. So I did pick the Chargers to beat the New York Giants, and unfortunately that did not happen. So one of my entries got eliminated. So that's the only one I had incorrect. So let me see if I can actually download it because I downloaded it and let me see if I can pull it up because I got AFC and NFC. Yeah. And then there was another one that really shocked me was that the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the San Francisco 49ers. I did not expect that to happen. The other one I was not so confident because it was a neutral game. That was the Minnesota Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would tell you not to take that game because that was a neutral site and that was the first game in Ireland. All right. So let me go with the ones that I thought. All right. So the who else eliminated? The Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Now, someone did answer a question about ties. Now, if a game is tied, like like if overtime is over, you're actually eliminated from the survivor pool. So it's not like college football where like somebody keep playing until somebody scores a touchdown or a point, something like that. So in survivor pool, if a game ends up in a tie, you're actually eliminated. So let me go with the AFC, by the way. So I did have the New England Patriots beat the Carolina Panthers. That was right. Buffalo Bills beat the Saints. That was a 94% winning probability. We got that right. We did get the Miami Dolphins beating the New York Jets. We did get that right because according to Splash Sports, it was 60.60%. Houston beat Tennessee. That was a 78.90%. Denver beat Cincinnati. That was at 81%. Now, the one I told you about, the Chargers lost to the Giants. The Chargers actually had a 70.10% chance of beating the Giants. That was the Chargers' first loss. Now, let's go to the NFC. It should be loading up, by the way. All right, there we go. So, we did get Detroit being Cleveland. Detroit had an 84%. Now, with the game was tied between Green Bay and Dallas. Green Bay had a 72.20% chance of beating the Cowboys. The Minnesota had a 54% chance because I did say trap, by the way, on that survival pool grid sheet. We did get the Washington Atlanta game. I told that was a trap game, which of course that did. Now, another one I got wrong was the San Francisco 49ers beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. I listed that as safe, and actually that San Francisco lost that game, as San Francisco was a 62% chance. Then you had the Rams beating the Colts. Rams had a 64.30 chance, by the way. So now we got that all set. Now we are going to go with week 5 of the NFL Survivor Pool. Let me just find it because I did list it, by the way. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put it on the chat if anybody has a question. And you can also follow me on social media at 586 Sports with 2 S's. So I can answer a question whether it's NCAA or NFL. Now I did list it. Alrighty. Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? I got it in my notes, by the way. So I got the NFC and the AFC. Now, for those of you who have watched this show, you will know that I would say do not touch Thursday night football games, as the LA Rams and the 49ers will face each other in the Thursday night football. And there is a couple of injuries that the 49ers have. I know George Kittle is injured, by the way. So if you do have San Francisco on your survival pool that you never pick, I would say the San Francisco 49ers as well. Like I said, everybody's survival pool is different, as I am looking into these survival pool. And then last week, I also said I'm looking for my NFC AFC grid sheets. Okay, I got my NFC AFC grid sheets. Okay, so I do have the, because sometimes the grid sheets can mess up with the color. So please excuse me because sometimes I do got to make corrections, by the way. So the Rams do have an 82% chance of beating the San Francisco 49ers, according to Splash Sports. Because I got this as a loser survivor pool. That's why I'm looking at the grid sheets. So so the Rams do have an 82.20% chance of beating the San Francisco 49ers. Like I said, I recommend you not picking Thursday night football games because Thursday night football games can be lucky or unlucky. Then I did say last week you can pick the Lions either last week, this week, and a game against the Giants in week 12. So if you don't want to pick this, if you want to pick Detroit against the Cincinnati Bengals, so a couple of games you can pick is a home game against the Giants, a home game against the Cowboys, then the home game against the Chicago, a road game against the Chicago Bears because I mixed it up. So week 18 is on the road against the Bears. So if you're not picking if you're not picking the Detroit Lions against the Cincinnati Bengals, you can use the Lions in week 12, week 14, and then week 18 at Chicago. Then you also got another one I'm looking at. I'm also looking at the Arizona Cardinals, as the Cardinals is facing against the Tennessee Titans. That is at Arizona. Arizona does have an 81.80% chance of beating Tennessee. All right. So after that, they got at Indianapolis. Then they got a bye week at week 8. They play Green Bay in week 7. Then they have a road game against the Cowboys, the Seahawks at 9 and 10. Then they got to play San Francisco in week 11. They play Jacksonville in week 12. So as the weeks go by, Arizona Cardinals going to have a very tough schedule. So if you have not choose Arizona, you can also look at that. Then there's a game I'm very, very, very iffy on going to the AFC, and that is the Indianapolis Colts against the Las Vegas Raiders, as the Colts are a 76% 70 chance of beating them. Now, here's my problem with this game. This game could be smelling as trap because last week the Raiders could have beat the Chicago Bears, but the Chicago Bears blocked that kick. So if you have not, if you ever think about using Indianapolis, I would not recommend doing that, especially if you have one entry in your survivor pool. So it's recommend not to take that take that team. Then I'm also looking at what else I'm looking at. The Buffalo Bills, a home game against the New England Patriots. Now you do want to pay attention to the Buffalo Bills, especially when it comes to them clutching the AFC East, because let's face it, the AFC East is trash or garbage. Okay, they garbage. So Buffalo, after they play the Patriots, they have a road game against the Falcons. They have a bye week in week 7. They play Carolina on the road at week 8. Then they got the Chiefs in week 9. Then they got Miami in week 10. That's a road game. Then they got Tampa in week 11. So you want to pay attention to how Buffalo clinched that AFC East, because when Buffalo clinched that AFC East, the value of that team may not be good like they were in previous weeks. So you want to pay attention to how Buffalo, when they clinched that AFC East. Okay. Then you also got another one I could think of. Kansas City. Okay. Kansas City is heading to Jacksonville. That's a road game. And then next week they play Detroit. That's a Sunday night football game. Then they play the Raiders in week 7. Then they play Washington. Then they play Buffalo in week 9. That's a road game. Then they got to go to Denver week 11. Colts in 12. A road game against the Cowboys in week 13. Home game against the Texans in week 14. Home game against the Chargers in week 15. Now you could save that. You can save it until week 16 when the Chiefs face the Tennessee Titans in week 16. That is a road game. And then 17, 18, we don't know what the playoffs going to look like in the AFC. So things could change. And like I said last week, survivor pools are kind of like a stock market. It goes up and down, up and down. Then you got the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans. Both of them are 1-3. I will save the Baltimore Ravens. Now there are some games that you could use the Baltimore Ravens. That is week 8. That's a home game. Week 9 against the Dolphins. Week 11 at Cleveland. 12 Jets. 13 Cincinnati. 14 Pittsburgh. That could be an iffy one. Then 15 at Cincinnati, 16 Patriots, that's a home game, and then 17, 18 is at Green Bay and at Pittsburgh. Those are road games. And then we also got college football. Now we're going to go with college football. Let's do a recap of that because I did know I did. Let me get this out the way because I do know I did do a survival pool grid sheet for that, but I'm trying to find my correction for the week 5. All right. Now the one I did, I can tell you right now, I did get wrong was the Virginia and getting to end. It's the laptop, by the way. So please excuse me because it's not the system. It's just that it's not coming up. Okay, there we go. So let's do the ACC first while it's loading up. Okay, so I thought. Oh wait, you know what? I didn't do Florida State. I didn't do Florida State because I did the show Friday. Cause so that wouldn't count. That wouldn't count. Now Georgia Tech, I had an 81.50%. That was a percentage. Then North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, that was like 75%. Let me get my phone real quick. Can't get my phone real quick, but that's later on. Now another one I did get one right because I was paying attention because I knew that game was trapped. That was Oregon and Penn State. That game ended up in being overtime because I felt like Penn State will find a way to screw it up, which they really did. Because Penn State, especially with James Franklin as head coach, because Penn State will find a way to screw it up, which he did. Now, another one I had right was Ohio State beating Washington. I mean, that was not even a game. It was dog. It was nowhere near close. It was nowhere near close. It was nowhere near close. So, see. Okay, here it is. So I got the upcoming weeks for college football survival pool. So you have Alabama against Vanderbilt. You may want to pay attention to that game because last year, if you guys remember, Vanderbilt beat Alabama. That was at Vanderbilt, but this time the game is in Tuscaloosa. Then another one you could also look at is Georgia facing Kentucky, as Georgia has a 94.10% of beating Kentucky. Also, another thing when it comes to my survival pools, we do not use point spreads, we use win probability. So that would make it different than the rest of people that use point spreads because point spreads can be misleading. Then another one you can also look at is Texas and Florida because Texas, that is going to Florida. That is a road game, by the way. You may want to pay attention to that, especially the way Archie Manning is playing. You want to be on the lookout for that in the SEC. Then another one, it is a big game that is Miami and Florida State. You want to be on alert for that. As you know, Florida State did lose to Virginia last week, and Miami is still undefeated. So there could be some upset alert between Miami and Florida State. It can be an upset, a possible upset that Florida State beating Miami. Then another one you could also need to pay attention to is Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, as Virginia Tech is a 68% chance of beating Wake Forest, according to Splash Sports. Another one you want to look at, I was looking at, is Michigan has a 91.70% chance of beating Wisconsin. As you know, Wisconsin got their butts kicked by Maryland. It's that bad. Goodness gracious. Then you also want to look at who else you want to look at? Well, not Penn State and UCLA because Penn State can crush UCLA. Penn State does have a 94% chance. Also, another one I was looking at. What else I was looking at? No, not San Diego State and Colorado State, because San Diego State almost got a 70% chance. That's not the game I was talking about. The Cincinnati and Iowa State, you want to pay attention to that, as Cincinnati has a 54.50% chance of beating Iowa State. Also, who else I got? I think that's a couple of games. That's it. By the way, can't even get the top of my head because I knew that I downloaded my script. I don't know what the heck happened. So let me get my script because I know I downloaded my script. I don't know what the heck did I do with it. Oh, here it is. 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 Because I knew I had my script. I knew I had my script for it, but my laptop was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. All right. So when I was mentioning about the Alabama Vanderbilt, now Vanderbilt did beat Alabama last year, entering 5-0 with quarterback Diego Pavla playing elite football. As Crimson Tide is favored by 10.5, that could be vulnerable after an emotional win over Georgia. Now the Florida State Miami game, Florida State is coming off that double overtime loss to Virginia Tech, as they need to bounce back. Now, Hurricanes is undefeated, and as they're going to face a hostile road environment in Tallahassee. Now, here's the game I did not mention in the Big Ten. That is 22nd ranked Illinois will face Purdue. Now, last year, Purdue almost beat Illinois last year to fight a terrible season. Now, the Fighting Illini may be caught looking ahead to Ohio State after a win over USC last week. Now, Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. Now, Mississippi State have been looking sharp under Jeff Levy as their defense may struggle against struggle against MSU effective passing attack. Another one is Wake Forest versus Virginia Tech. So Virginia Tech having a new coach bump after firing their coach Brent Pry. Now, Wake Forest defense is 32nd nationally in EPA per play. Then University of Central Florida versus Kansas. Now, UCF is ranking higher in advanced metrics like EPA per play and net yards per play, as the Jayhawks have already dropped 2 games and could be vulnerable. That was the one I at. Okay, so here's my actual note. So I did say earlier ago that you want to avoid the San Francisco and the LA Rams game because that is a Thursday night. Not only that, but there's also injuries for the San Francisco 49ers. So avoid that. Now, another one you may want to I would recommend not taking this one. That is the Dallas Cowboys are going to play the New York Jets. Now, their offense is rolling for the Cowboys, but the defense for the Jets has been leaky. So that could be like a home game for Dallas. All right. So the injuries for the 49ers is Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Ricky Purcell, and Juwan Jennings. They're all out. Now, according to Sportsline, they're actually giving the Indianapolis Colts a 74% win probability, lower than other favorites. But since the Raiders almost beat the Bears, I recommend not taking that game because there's other games you can also look at. So that will be a no from my perspective. Then the Vikings and the Browns, avoid that game because that game is international and that atmosphere is going to be neutral. So don't be surprised if the Cleveland Browns beat the Minnesota Vikings. And people think the Browns defense is bad, but it's not bad as you think it is, even though they did get their butts whooped by Detroit. But that defense is not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. Okay. So only got 5 more minutes. All right. So since I did say earlier that I did a losers of 5 pool grid sheet on Patreon, so I'm going to give you one pick for each for the loser survival pool of the week. So let me start off with the NFL. So in the NFL, let me go to my grid sheet, by the way. That's the wrong one. I'm all over the doggone place. All right. So, where the heck is the? I know I just had it. Wait. Okay, this. Okay, there it is. Okay. So for my loser survival pool of the week, I will pick the New England Patriots to lose the Buffalo Bills in the loser survivor pool. And then in the college, I would say pick West Virginia to lose to BYU. My picks of the week. So I have New England losing to the Buffalo Bills, and then West Virginia losing to BYU. So those are my loser survivor pool of the week, and I'll keep doing this further and further throughout the whole season. All right. So there you have it. Time right now is 6:57, and we are going to close this show. And also, if you're not able to watch the show, you can actually listen to Safer Trap the Survival Pool Show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly newsletter as we are doing contests, whether it's Splash Sports or Bull Rush. And moving forward, we're not going to be a sports news website anymore. We're going to be a fantasy sports website to give you like which teams to pick, over unders and stuff like that. So moving forward, so I have confidence that this will work than the old format because anybody can find sports news. And I have been told that there may be a NHL contest. Now that will be on the newsletter, so I won't announce it on here, but I will put that on the weekly newsletter. All right. So make sure you sign up. And once you sign up, you'll get it in 2 minutes. All right. So thank you guys very much. You guys have a nice and wonderful week. And also, you can, like I said, you can also follow me on social media at 586 Sports. That's two S's. And you can also follow 586 Sports at 586 Sports on X, Instagram, Threads. And don't forget to visit our website at 586sports.com. So, you guys have a nice and wonderful evening. Take care.